Heat, or High Excitement Action Tabletop, is a diceless action tabletop RPG written by David Dragon Cobolt and the Cybernetic Coven. First, put down those pitchforks. I know that a diceless TTRPG sounds like the highest blasphemy in the TTRPG genre, but sometimes, have you ever just feel like not rolling dice because you clearly have more than enough stat to pass the damn thing? Everyone wants to roleplay as the hero, but it's hard to feel like a hero when you missed 20 shots in a row from sheer bad luck in rolling. Well, Heat has a diceless system that basically lets you deterministically succeed or fail at a certain action. That might not sound interesting, but how it works can be explained by why the author wrote this game. Heat is a TTRPG system for action-centric gameplay where you play as characters that are a cut above the rest, as if your character has the words main character floating above their head like a sign or something. The name comes from how firearms mechanic works in Mass Effect 1, in which you fire them until you either let them cool down or overheat because you want more damage or aren't careful enough, which is basically how this TTRPG works, until they changed the system in Mass Effect 2 for no fucking reason. It was a cool thing. Why the hell would you change it, fucking BioWare? So basically, you have a heat bar, which is tracked by a D6, that you don't roll. Very funny, Cobalt. Whenever you take an action on your turn, you must figure out the total value, which is your skill number applicable to the action, plus add things that aid or make things harder for you, like the environment, tool, whatever, and the difficulty of the action you are about to do. For example, John Farmer has a skill of gun at 3 and he's gonna shoot some gonk infiltrators. This action only takes 1 difficulty, so he just do it. No heat gained at the moment. Unfortunately, there was 4 of them, and each time you take another action in the same turn, the difficulty check goes up by 1, so difficulty 2, difficulty 3, and difficulty 4. Against the last gonk infiltrator, because John Farmer's total value is lower than the difficulty, he can choose to fail, or take heat to succeed, which is treated as an environmental add, and if more gonk infiltrator kept pouring in, he can keep doing that until he overheats by having 7 or more heat, which is very bad. I will talk about how bad it is later. But you will still succeed in the action that caused you to overheat, so if you want to pass a check even on the verge of overheating, you can just do it. The choice is yours. Of course, the question now is, how do you lose heat? You can do it with multiple options: take a hit, enter cooldown, fail, or rest. The first 2 are only available for structured encounters with rounds and turns, and the latter 2 are your only options for free-form play. Take a hit is simple: you lose only 1 heat, end your turn for the round, and 1 NPC gets to act, usually shooting at you, hence taking a hit. Enter cooldown is for when you use a special power, like using telekinetic power to push people. You lose heat equal to the strength of the power, but this also ends your turn, and allows 1 NPC per player or 4 NPC, whichever higher, to act, so if you are outnumbered by easy to defeat enemies, not a good idea. Fail is, well, fail, to fail the check. This immediately loses all of your heat, but you also suffers the consequences of failing said check, which could be really bad. And rest is just not doing things for an hour, which is easier said than done because your characters usually get thrown at situations with urgency. Moving back to overheat a bit, it's not a good thing to have this happens to you. When you overheat, you lose the turn for the round and take a hit. Also, you have to pull another D6 out to track even more heat, which can increasingly make the situations worse for you, until you straight up just fucking die. This also means that it's actually pretty hard to, get killed, because you need so much heat to have that happen to you. And these are basically the most basic mechanic of heat, the foundation of which everything is built upon. But of course, we are not here to only just do maths and narrate. It's time to bring in sparks. Sparks is a discrete chunk of narrative control, coming from skills, gears, powers, to GM fiat. Every time you pass a check by meeting the difficulty number and going over it, you gain spark. You gain more spark the easier the task is, so if you want to, you could gain heat to make a task less difficult to gain more spark, risking heat for more narrative power. This applies to both combat and freeform roleplay. Whether you want to pin someone down with gunfire or pin someone down on bed, these sparks basically creates effects upon their target, which will either decay by turn, or get snuffed out via action, which you can do so too if you get spark flung upon you. Some sparks might operate differently too, like for example, it's not a good idea to have a ticking time bomb spark decays on its own. You might want to snuff it out quickly, urgently even. There's also nestled spark, which happens when you stack different sparks upon a target, usually in increasingly stronger effects. And also, hit spark, which are a lot different than other sparks as they represents wounds you have taken, All hit sparks may be named differently, but they all do the same thing. When they are created, they raise your minimum heat by 1, and when they decay, they release heat, pushing you towards overheat, meaning not only does hit spark makes you more likely to overheat, you might want to snuff them out via action as quickly as possible to not get cooked. Combine the entirety of the system together, and you get an action-centric system great for just about any setting that could be played out the way you wanted. Well, once you figure out how it works, honestly speaking, it's kinda hard to go from playing with dices to not really rolling them, and reading heat feels like I'm a new visitor in the TTRPG realm all over again, because every knowledge I have learned from studying mechanics of many TTRPG before is basically useless here. I haven't even really talked about additional mechanics like the characteristics system that can be used to create anything from firearm, to people, to spaceship, to god, so you have no problem creating anything for your setting if your players want to hit them really hard, and you are free to run your own setting in heat, though some genres like horror might not work so well as they are not that action-centric, unless your character is the horror. However, in its current format, heat is basically a TTRPG system, kinda like how GURPS is, so currently, it doesn't really have a set setting, it's up to you to create one yourself. It's also very much in the alpha development stage, which is where the Kickstarter comes in. Whenever it's out, I'm still not sure about the date. Basically, the Kickstarter is here to finalize the base system, and if stretch goals are reached, more advanced rule expansions are added in as well as pre-made settings to utilize these new mechanics. This includes Tank Quest, a world where Kid do Pokemon battle with tanks, with expanded rule on creating vehicles, Blood Dim Tides, a 20th century setting where Martians and vampires exist alongside imperialists, with guides on how to use spark to create conspiracies and larger tasks, and finally, Star Walkers, wow, I wonder what could it be, also featuring advanced combat rules. That's just the first 3 stretch goals, with more to add in more pre-made settings if possible. Personally speaking, I'm really looking forward to this one, for obvious reason. That said, things might get changed, because I'm announcing a Kickstarter that hasn't even come out yet. It's supposedly coming out somewhere this month, so get ready. As for where to get this thing, currently, you can't, but the Kickstarter will provide a demo version of the rule for you to read, again, whenever it's out. Anyway, that's basically it. First time reviewing something that needs this little dice, so it sounds quite interesting to me, and I hope it too will be interesting to you. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.